What's going on, guys? It's your boy Manpreet here to drop the main event breakdown for UFC Vegas 48 between Rafael Dos Anjos and Rafael Fiziev. But first, I want to let you guys know that the remaining breakdowns for the rest of the fights are starting to drop on the Patreon. That is just one of the many perks that the Patreon members get for $5 a month. It's early access to the breakdowns, a best bets and props article, a great Discord community, prize picks, tips, you name it. More than likely, I got it on the Patreon, and it's only $5 a month. Link is in the description below. All right, let me quit the jibber jabbering and let's get right into the breakdown. Time for the main event of UFC Vegas 48, and it is between Rafael Dos Anjos and Rafael Fiziev. In terms of odds, we got plus 210 now on Dos Anjos and minus 260 the return on the streaking prospect Rafael Fiziev. So let's start off on his side. He's coming off a tremendous knockout victory over Brad Riddell, a former training partner of his over there at Tiger Muay Thai, and that capped off a 5-fight winning streak for him, and he's looking to push it to 6 now in his first ever UFC main event. Now, the only time we've really ever seen weakness from Fiziev or kind of a flaw from him was obviously his UFC debut, where he got knocked out by Magomed Mustafayev. But after that, he went on and actually had that victory over Bobby Green, a very close fight where it seemed Fiziev was actually starting to slow down. That was the main concern in that fight, where he won the first 2 rounds pretty handily, but in the third round, it seemed like Bobby Green was starting to turn up the volume, and that's kind of what started to create Fiziev and that slight gas tank issue. I'll say this: his gas looked pretty good in the Brad Riddell fight the next time out, and I think the reasoning behind that is because the Bobby Green style, which is stay in your face and force you to throw a lot of punches, was not the best for Rafael Fiziev that night. In the Brad Riddell fight, he was able to control the fight a little bit more, pressure Brad Riddell the way that he wanted to, especially considering how Brad Riddell fights, which is mainly off of his back foot and mainly wings with a lot of big counters and winging hooks. That was something for Fiziev to easily look for, counter, and obviously get out of the way of comfortably without having to expend too much energy or stressing himself out. That's kind of his game, right? He's a very methodical striker, great combinations, great leg kicks, great body kicks. And once he really gets into his flow state, you see him produce knockouts like the Brad Riddell fight. A great performance against Renato Moicano, or I should say, great knockout of Renato Moicano, although Moicano was having tremendous success with his jab and using his range against him. Unfortunately for Rafael Dos Anjos, he won't have that same type of advantage here in terms of the height and the reach. Dos Anjos, on the other hand, is coming off a near 13 to 14 month layoff now since the last time he stepped in the cage, which was against Paul Felder as a short notice main event slot. Felder actually stepped in for Islam Makhachev that week, and Dos Anjos was able to go out there and pretty much beat him on all scorecards. Surprising that one of the judges actually saw it for Felder, and Felder admitted that judge was absolutely crazy for giving him the fight. But I thought Dos Anjos won pretty much every single round without too much issue. Did a very good job in terms of mixing his MMA game, right? Great striking into takedowns, and those takedowns especially came when he was able to pressure Paul Felder back behind the warning track, and then from there he was able to shoot and get the takedowns and get some decent control time there. That's what he's going to need to do here against a guy like Fiziev, because he's not going to go out there and outstrike him for 25 minutes. Because if he allows Fiziev to lead the dance, we're going to see a Brad Riddell type of performance, maybe not with the knockout, as it's been pretty difficult to put away a guy like Rafael Dos Anjos. But I think that if RDA just accepts being on the outside and accepts that kickboxing range, he's going to get torched up in this fight. So I have a couple question marks about Fiziev, right? First ever 5-round fight. If he gets stretched into round 4 and 5, how is he going to fare? He has a 95% takedown defense rate, and a lot of that is the Alex White fight, where White went 0 of 11 on that on takedown attempts, and the only takedown that's been landed successfully was by Brad Riddell, but that was short-lived as Fiziev was able to get back to his feet pretty easily in that fight. I expect Dos Anjos to attack takedowns in this, right? I expect him to eventually either counter with takedowns or try to do what he did against Paul Felder, pressure Fiziev back behind the warning track, and then look for takedowns. But that's going to be a tough task against a hard-nosed striker like Fiziev. Then my other question comes, which is if Dos Anjos goes out there and time again, over and over again, shoots for takedowns and engages in the grappling, how will that fare on Fiziev's gas tank? That's not a form in which he's used to fighting in, right? And now he's going to have to do it against a former lightweight champion over 25 minutes. I have my question marks. So I agree that Fiziev should be the favorite. I think the line's a little bit too wide, but it's not to the point that I actually want to put money on Dos Anjos in the spot. He's 37 years old, coming off a long layoff, and he's going up against a very hot prospect right now who seems to have all the chops to make a run for the title. I like Fiziev in the spot. I think he'll be able to deal with the striking style and the takedown attempts of Dos Anjos. And I think he will stuff enough takedowns and be able to stay at that kickboxing range and just use his hard-nosed striking style, his combinations, his kicks and everything just to keep RDA on the outside. I'd be surprised if he finishes him. Again, RDA is quite durable, but I do think that we'll see Fiziev just outstrike him over 25 minutes. He might give up a round or two, but this is where we'll truly see him tested. Again, having to defend numerous takedowns, and not from a guy like Alex White, right? That's not Alex's game. It's RDA's game to go out there and try to take down his opponents and wear them out. RDA has fought young upstarts in the past, right? Kevin Lee was one where he came in, if I'm not mistaken, as the underdog, and he withstood that early barrage from Kevin Lee, but as Lee started to break down, that's where we see Dos Anjos start to take him down and have his own success on the mat. It could happen here. It all comes down to how good Fiziev or his cardio is. And last thing I'll say about Fiziev, his wrestling, it's not like it's non-existent. Of course, he's been wrestling in the past. When he used to work at Tiger Muay Thai or train at Tiger Muay Thai, his main head coach was George Hickman, who came to Tiger Muay Thai with a wrestling background. So you got to believe he really instilled that in his opponent or his fighters, especially considering that a lot of them were Muay Thai based. You got to be able to keep the fight in your range and in your style of fighting. And the way to do that is to sprawl and brawl. So I'm sure that they had him ready for that. Now he's obviously down there at Sanford MMA. I'm sure they're doing great work with him as well, which is why I like him to win this fight. I just don't want to pay this price tag. So I'd be interested to see what the decision prop is like for Fiziev, because I could see that as a viable way for him to win this fight. But let's see what it looks like when he finally gets tested by someone who is more than likely going to be looking to take him to the ground here. So official prediction is going to be Rafael Fiziev, and I'll take him to win this fight via decision.